So we're going to start with settling our spine along the length of the bolster, but also have the blanket to add some support for the neck and that curvature at the cervical vertebrae. So although this practice is geared to focusing on postures for our breathing muscles and to deepen that awareness into the lungs, we are going to start with something that's quite settling for most people. So we'll begin with a reclining cobbler's pose. So I want you to sit in front of the bolster, the short end of the bolster. And as you can see, all the props lined up. There's a blanket underneath my bolster rolled up so there's height. You're going to have a loop secured around your body from your waist, and then pull the feet in and see if you can gather your belt so it's over the tops of the feet, over the ankles, and then as you cinch the belt up, base the belt to the very lowest part of your back where you almost feel it connect to the buttocks. So if it kind of rolls onto the back, or you feel it, not roll, but you feel it cinch near your rear, you might slide it up tiny bit so that when you lower back, it doesn't pinch anything. Okay, so some blocks are essential here. We want to have our blocks under the legs, supported and elevated, quite significant lift of the legs. Now as you recline and you feel the lower back kind of grasp, I want you to feel how the feet have to clutch together, how the front body can elongate all the way through the core, and get the sandbag nearby. And I would encourage you to put it across the selection of ribs where they intersect, right descending from the sternum. So it's kind of the descending breath place. So since this is particularly breathing wellness practice, having something for weight training for the lungs is helpful in the beginning. So you'll feel the sand weight, in particular, even across the ribs, and then set your blanket that's under your head for comfort. So for me, I'm going to slide it a little bit back so it really is holding simply my brain. It kind of cups around to my brainstem a little bit. And you might go ahead and put the blanket so it is bunched up right at the top of the shoulders. Curl it up, that's fine. Feel the differences, and then we're going to settle into it. So the blocks, if they're pointy and jabby into your skin, shift them so they're contoured a little bit more on the side. And then let the skin relax into the support. Keeping the focus that we're focusing on being receptive to experiencing the support in the poses as well with the props. Bring your arms and lift them so they're actually moving back behind you, and hold your elbows. Have a little bit of an elbow hug with your hands wrapping around each elbow. And then as you center the weight of the spine and the brain, let your eyes relax and noticing what gravity does to the eyelids when they close. Feeling the skin surrounding the muscles of the eyes softening. And gather your attention on the even rhythm of your breath. Change the crossing of the arms. Fill the belly. Expand. And gradually feel it relax back towards the spine. No force. Curiosity. Continue to scan the body for where you can center along the areas that are balancing, perhaps you could consider the hips, the shoulders, where you have pairs of things, right hip, right shoulder, left shoulder. And then let go of the elbows and deliberately place the arms beside you and try to spread them out some. So as they motion open, feel how they move out, and that collectively loosens up the chest. So from the shoulders down into the biceps and through the arm muscles. So you could feel the extreme of reaching out where it's almost muscular reactivity with the reach. And then find the softness and the weight of your elbows. And the softness of your inhale and your belly lifting. And on your exhale, feel it back to relax. So we'll take another minute here. Same shape. Consideration of the pace of your breath now. So in breath for 4 counts. And out breath for 5. Feel the strong motion of the belly. But then, can you access the awareness around the sandbag with the breathing muscles? It's like you're trying to lift your sandbag. When you inhale, and the exhale can soften, deflate, and release. Now as the hands slide in closer to the sides of your mat, we'll assess the situation and feeling how the inner lines of the legs, the groins, you want the zone to soften, right? But with that opening, there is flexibility required. So we'll start to work into the front of the thighs, the top lead into the hip flexors before we go into a couple of deep hip poses. So you're going to unbuckle the belt, taking that and sliding it over. Now, as you bring your knees towards each other, I want you to step the feet apart. The sand could stay on. If it slides off, then so be it. But you can see how long that will last. And as I slide the belt from underneath me out to the side, you're going to take a block and push down into your feet. And with this sand pressure, I want you to be a little bit careful and considerate of your spine. What you'll do is you lift your hips to this bridge pose. And then you're going to move your blanket from underneath your head. It's a little easier to get the lift up. Push into your feet, lift the hips, and slide the block flat, the lowest setting, under the back of your pelvis. I would recommend the block goes across lengthwise. Some teachings are it goes straight, lengthening down for the connection in the spine, but this is a little softer approach. So feel where it's comfortable below your tailbone. That might be the best bet here. And then once we're in that pattern, we're going to straighten out the legs and then roll the sandbag down to the tops of the thighs or across the frontal hip bones. It's fine too. Space the feet out wider. Okay, approach it so you almost feel like your heels got heavy and the toes have no direction that they can control. They're just going out, okay? So instead of staring them down, just let them be. And then take your belt and hold on to the belt, wide, generous width, and lift it up, okay? And start to move it back over head. Well, you're not going to start to, you're just going to go into it. And then as you hold on to the belt, grapple between the arm focus and the chest focus. Can you access the breathing muscles, the accessory breathing muscles, the intercostals? Keep this in mind. We're going to do quite a bit of intercostal work ahead. So when you're here, can you balance the right and the left side of the chest as far as you can tell? And there's always the subtleties that you notice differences. There's different organs compiled on right and left side in the abdominal zone. So there's just different frequencies internally. So focus on the muscular awareness. That can be evened out. A little easier, huh? So the feet relax, let them go again if they started to rile up. And then feel the arms behind you. Really keep it back. Okay, with the brain resting back now on just the bolster. Feel the shoulders squeeze into the back to the bolster. In breath. Feel the ribs expand. And out breath. Deflate. Now let go of your belt and then reach your hands down, and as you move the sand aside, let's slide our left foot in, and I want you to bring the right foot and cross that ankle to the left knee. Just kind of be in this pattern for a moment. Feel the right inner thigh kind of leak out any holding patterns. This is especially easeful with a block under your tailbone. And switch sides, just a few moments before we get rid of the block so that you can increase that range and through the belly, kind of relaxed, but lengthening in the core chamber. This is all in a position of front length. Right, not rounding the back or causing that rounded curve, so it's neutral. Now as you uncross, push down into your heel bones. Tuck under at the tailbone, like you're doing that pelvic tilt so that the wave of the spine is felt from the back of the heart into the bolster and then lifting your hips up. Now, feel that without too much gritting, right? Too much jaw clenching pattern. See if you can lift up, be neutral in this zone of the pelvis, but enough that you could sneak and slide that block away. Get your ball. Try to keep holding the buttocks up. Place the ball so it's right besides the upper outer left thigh. Greater trochanter, okay? Put it there. And then as you lower down your hips, you're gonna lift up the right foot, cross the ankle to the left knee, and then let the body weight lean into that ball. So you might adjust so the ball is stuck to your thigh and you're actually smushing it. You're just trying to kind of push into it, and the ball is part thigh now. It's actually part of you. Smush it. Now let that skin texture on that outer left side of the hip get some hydration, okay? And then hold on to the right knee with the left hand. Try to keep your sequencing pretty crisp here. Right arm stretches back besides your head. And as you hold on to that knee, feel the sensation through the waist and through the hip. If it's more hip and less waist, longer inhale, right? Feel the ribs working. Let everything access the sensation of length, every muscle, every ripple through the intercostals. Good. Now when you feel the right hip, the buttock, deep glute muscles starting to stretch, or maybe they've been stretching from the get-go on this crossover, be a little bit curious here. Explore. If you hold that right knee with your hand, if your right arm is getting tired or tingly or it fell asleep, be sure to put it beside you. Sometimes that happens. But when you pull with that left hand, are you pulling towards you? Are you pulling across with the leg? Consider pulling across, like you're trying to get that knee all the way over to the other side of the room. Yeah, breathing, especially through the difficult moments here, through the hips. Now, interesting, when we come back through center, I want you to let that right knee really move open, kind of flush out the leg, and then slide the right leg straight down, okay? Now, as you push down through that right heel, well, the heel goes down because it's earth touch, but the foot can actually push out. Like if you do this with your hand, right, you're trying to really measurably space the flesh at the bottom of the foot to stretch. It's almost a little bit weird to try to stretch all the toes and the flesh of the foot. Worthy exploration. And then as you slide that right foot in, you're going to place the ball besides the right buttock, or I'm going to actually lift up my hips and then put the ball in really close to the side of my, I'll show you on this side, on the side of my hip, but it's actually right side for all of us. I really push it in and then I kind of sit on it. So there's a little part of this ball that I've got cornered. If you can corner a ball, I don't know about that. And then when I lift up my left foot and cross it to the right knee, I go immediately into that squishing the ball. Right hand, left knee, hold, reach left arm back. The ball placement might not feel right for you, so you pretty much can guarantee any of these sequences or outlines, and you will add your creativity to each of them. Some of them, much of the practice you have to vary. So when you lean over, does it feel different on this side? Is it pushing into the joint? Is it stretching across? Is it tingly? Or does it feel like that's a tense area and I need to kind of loosen up the tension? That should be where we're meeting here. So when you hold onto the knee, can you keep the hand drawing the left leg across? Across. Yeah, you might find your right foot slides down and the knee opens out like the first pose, Baddha Konasana. If it's a tiny bit of a pressure point of a massage on the right buttock, great with the ball. Keep it. Okay. So move the left arm beside you if you haven't already. Feel the pull with that right hand. Breathing. Okay, now it's all about the accessibility in upper and lower body. Really trying to feel that opposing pattern, upper and lower body, to stretch the midsection and also the rib section, which seems to be midsection. So relax your grip with the hand. Move the ball, but keep it next to your left hip. Okay. So as you uncross, you're going to step your feet out wide, windshield wiper side to side. This will be a common linking position a couple times today, is the windshield wiper. Now, this obviously addresses that coordination of lower body into torso. So make the feet step wide enough so you can actually feel the legs swishing and the connection into your hip and into the torso. Now, as you roll to your left, I want you to actually roll to the left and keep interested in your side body, okay? So let's move our bolster across so it's horizontal. Get a hold of your sandbag. Have your sand and your ball nearby your left leg. And then with the blankets behind your bolster, I have to get them kind of refolded a little bit. Not necessarily got to take them up and stretch them apart, but I'm going to make a pack of blankets. That's what we could call them when they're in twos. This is your blanket pack. Okay, so the quarter fold is generic. Now when I move a block over the other side of the blankets, that's intentional for my arm option, but I may use it and I may not. It depends on how I feel. I can always plan ahead, but when I get there, I've got to see how my arm's doing. Okay, so we're going to go into a side sage pose. So I want you to prepare so your left leg is drawing up to the bolster, but this back of the left knee is in a fold. There's a hinge at the joint, but be sure that it's comfortable enough of a bend. It's not too severe, meaning the foot isn't all the way in towards the right leg. Be sure it's comfortable so you can feel the whole outer weight of your left leg. Okay? Now grab onto your sand, lift it up to your right hip. There's kind of a perfect hook there between your waist and your hip, isn't it, for sand? But you're going to try to put that sand down to your hip itself. Okay? Now that pins and roots the traction. Lower your head to your blankets almost immediately so you can relax your neck. Now I feel, and if you observe, even by getting in the shape observation, that it's a neck stretch. So let it be so. Now if my right arm is pinned to my side, and I kind of reach it around to the sand, I can start to move my right shoulder back, and then move my arm in the air and stretch open the chest. Now as you reach the arm over the side of your whole right side sphere into the side of the head, overhead, maybe you're going to place that hand down to your block if you have that support, and you might let your right elbow bend a bit. Find common ground with the connection to the ball on the inside of that right leg. If you don't like that feature, you can always let it roll out. And then where does your back feel ease? Around the ribs to the thoracic vertebrae and the low back, both of them. And most essentially for your breathing muscles, your intercostals are featured here. So feeling that expansiveness at the ribs, the stretch of the muscles between them. And they stretch with the inhale. But they require an exhale to deflate the lungs. And then to get that proper amount of respiratory support when you intake the oxygen. And then the waste is let go, the respiratory waste on your exhale. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel the pumping of the belly on its side. And then you might find a common ground here. Maybe the right hand lowers to where it's a little bit easier for your neck and your shoulder. It's okay to get a little bit lost in this for a good half-minute where your eyes can close. And you can feel what you could do with your head weight to relax your neck. So use the weight of your brain to stretch this right side of the neck. Okay, now I'm going to give this option for opposing reaches, right, of lower and upper body. So start to lengthen the right leg. This might mean the ball stays there. Sometimes stays gripped on anyhow. And then when that right hand slides down to remove the sand, this whole right side is going to be a continuous stream of focus. So since we've got the basic gist of it, the side chamber lengthening in this hip zone, supported on the bolster, this whole area mirroring the bolster is the focus. Now we're going to kind of sink down into the hip and the leg muscles, and then back up to the ribs. So follow with this. We're going to lower the right hand down, and I want you to feel a bit of a twist so you're turning towards your blanket. In fact, let's go all with it. So we'll take the ball aside. Okay. You're going to turn so that your hands are between the bolster and blanket pack. Okay. And then bring the right knee to the left knee and see if you can push down, widen your fingers so the hands are really a full load here. And then as my arm is positioned against the bolster, this is helpful but also requires more upper body oomph, right, to get yourself to lift. It's going to require shoulders and back strength. So we're going to turn and come back to downward dog for a few. We'll take a few versions of this position right now. So we'll keep the heels reaching towards the floor, but pedal out the legs. So alternate bending your knees. Take it easy with the attempt to force down to your heel. Feel simply alternating patterning of bending your knees and reaching back through your heels. And then scoot the feet a little closer towards your bolster. And then the hands a little closer back on top of the bolster. And then land into your feet only, 2 feet only pose. Hands are going to dangle down in front of the legs to hold the elbows. And then let the spine drain. So in between these cycles, we're in this pattern of reversing the flow of gravity to the brain and the heart, and most essentially kind of unraveling the spine. So since you're in your own space and you might want to shake it out, you might want to let your head nod a little side to side. It's all up to you right now. If you want to grab the back of your legs and get a little deeper pull in the hamstrings, pretty good maneuvering here. I find holding my elbows and just feeling the circulation change in the skin cells of the face is perfect. I know that that's doing some good for internal but also skin. Bend your knees, bring your hands to your bolster, and depends on your range of motion, but I find coming down onto my hands, coming down onto the knees, and then rounding the back, tops of the feet pressed down, round your back into cat shape. Really achieve that length through the neck. Feel that you're a permanent cat for a few moments. Permanent cat shape. And now, Pushing down into your hands, arching the spine, moving the chest forward, lifting up your gaze towards the ceiling, arching the back, arching into cow, and then come to neutral. And now, good news, we're going to turn and we're going to sit on our bolster. Okay, so we kind of took a little bit of a side drive there to get inverted and to drain the back, but now we're back at the side stretch into the right hip. So we'll have our seat, and I want you to place a sandbag on the right upper thigh. Okay. Gather in your blocks. You can keep your blankets the exact same way. The key here will be when I reach my arms out of my back, I want to have some blocks up there, okay? So I'm actually going to work with, when we were in cat-cow, rounding, arching, kind of feel that wave of movement when you reach your ribs forwards, right? Kind of flinging the arms is almost like too advanced, I think, for me. I'm not quite there. I'm still trying to get this core connection. So when you bring your hands onto your blocks, this is important. It's critical to have some blocks here so that there's less rounding of our back. Okay, so when you're here, you can either have your blocks in front of you or to the left upper corner, kitty corner. Okay, so you'd be the decider. You're reaching with the spine. And I like to move the blocks to the left. I know what's kind of coming, so that's part of the practice too for me, but I want you to feel where your right hip is stretching. So you might lower the blocks down significantly under the hands and feel into that right inner thigh. The right leg is crossed in front of the left. Feeling into that. And we'll keep the focus on the right leg. Quite interesting here. So I think the safety would be to have my blocks come back into this neutral space. And then we'll keep following it. We'll move our sand to our left thigh. And if possible, two options. Block actually would be under my right foot. So I have my other block to go back in a moment. Could be here. Continuing this leg, or cross the leg over to the left. Either way. If you can cross the foot over to the floor on the other side of the left leg, go for it. And feel how your foot is grounded, but also your right hand is going to be grounded. So our right knee is positioned to point up. And then take a block, bring it back behind you. Place it on top of your stack. If you have a really long arm and this is too much addition, don't use it. And reach the left arm. Remember, the back cannot really round on this position very easily. That's the nice thing about twists, is you keep hydrating in the spinal spaces. So we're going to reach our left arm outside the right leg. And that's helpful for the spine. So I have my left arm straight. You could hook the elbow and kind of jab and push and twist. But I want you to get as much of a twist where it's actually challenging to get a 4-count breath. So the twists are included here. It's included in the practice today. Deep twists to help us access our breathing, a challenge. So not to say that we're going for so much pressure we're not able to in that breath force, but feel where there's some forces at work here to strengthen your breathing. So turn your chest to the right, The right hand, if it doesn't work on the block, you could put it on the blankets. If that doesn't work, you could reach your hand around and use your helping hand to get the sandbag loop, if you have a looped sandbag, which is pretty good here. Okay, so opt for the twist. Feel the twist where the ribs intersect below the sternum. Feel that bone structure rotating and starting to cycle into the organs. 3 more breaths. Exhale completely. Now loosen up your pressure. If you have the block, you might keep it back there. We'll be using it very soon. So when you come forward, uncross and place your feet together in cobbler's pose. You can remove your sand if you like, but get a good feel of your hands behind your bolster and working on pushing down into your, well, actually pushing your feet in together and then moving your knees out and then down. That's a challenge. So shoulders back, spine re-lengthens. Yeah, what do you visualize with a lengthened spine? Is it sky? Is it bones that are trying to get picked up? So properly work on upright. And then as you move your hands to the knees, you're going to slide the feet forwards and then slide down and sit and then turn to your side sage on the right hip next to the bolster. So I've got a couple props I need. I need the ball on the inside of the left leg. And then clearly the side attachment could use the sand. So add it too. Be a little curious here. So when I put that sandbag on the hip and I start to lower down into my props, you might find second side gets a little easier, and ease is what the name of the game here is, finding ease. It's okay to be without force. So feel the natural quality of reaching with the left arm. Feel the weight of your head down. Breathing, ribs expand. And relax. Let the mind focus on the pace of the breath and how it changes. Not necessarily comparing it with the last pose, the twists, but feeling your opportunity here is lasting for a while. The length, the depth is different than a twist, the in-breath. In the out-breath, noticing where do you get the most depth with your breathing cycle. It's likely going to be chest openers, back bends. So they're so helpful in liberating the tissues. So give it a few more moments. I want you to give a try here on this one. This side will be a little different than last side, how we're going to train. We won't go into down dog in between. Now, if the left leg can stretch back, go for it. If you want to stretch it down, like you're reaching straight down through the leg, perfect. Or bending and pushing it back, perfect. I like to bend the leg and stretch it back so my hip flexor and my quadricep feels a little bit of length. Just some elongation. I'm asking for more than spaciousness internally. That's my hope. distancing inside. Now, when the organs have this type of spaciousness or opportunity to hydrate, right, to really get some length, feel if that left arm is activated. It's really kind of in a forceful motion. Start to lower that down either on the sand or besides you on your bolster. This time when we come up, let's give a moment of the left leg draws to bending into the right. And you'll take your sand off, seems like a reasonable. Now this side, left side, I want us to stay focused there, okay? So when you roll into your bolster, you're gonna come up and we're gonna try to get right to that. We're gonna sit on the bolster, we're gonna bring our left leg to cross in front of the right, and we'll add our sand right on top of it. So we're staying with the program. So keep the muscles on this left side working now. You gotta get your block, because you gotta work your muscles to reach back far. And then when you come up and sit into forward fold, blocks are in front, kind of straight forward, or they go to the top right corner. Okay. Sand on the left thigh is quite important. So when I lean to the top right corner, I feel the hip dialing and externally open on the left leg. Feel your spine release to the neck. If you feel better with the blocks in front, take them back forward or keep them there if that was your start. There's no requirement to go to the end of the pose, like go to the edges or to what seems like the fullness of the pose might be somewhere before your edge. Now as you come back with your block so that you're established in center, you're going to move the sand to the right thigh, pretty high up, because you got to step your foot across. So you don't want your sand on your knee, right? So even if I chose this direction with my block under my foot, that's one way to go into the rotation, right? I could turn here. Now that's important to know if you have something going on with your knee and you still want to do some spine twists, some core strengthening, right? Stimulating the core, this is a good way to go. If I can go across the leg with my left foot and my knee it's still externally rotating the thigh tissue here, isn't it? However, differences. I'm trying to work on rooting through my left sitting bone too. Notice it's different when you're sitting like this than if your foot is forward, right? You're kind of rolling out on the sitting bone or the setting bone. So find your setting bones, settle in, and then take a block behind you. And hook the right elbow to that left leg and maybe straighten, maybe stay with the hook. Play with the options, right? Kind of work with, if I bend the elbow, it just feels different on the second side likely, right? There's some differences. It might not be your torso capacity to torque and turn. It might be your shoulder and your upper back is stiff. So if that's the situation, instead of jabbing and forcing, try straight. Try to lift up the spine, move the heart forward. And if it's tough in the upper right side of the back, try to stay with the twist. So feel other parts of the body help you. So what I like to do with this one is if I'm in the cross twist pattern with the leg crossed, I'm going to try to reach my left hand around to the loop on the sandbag. I usually need my right hand to join those. But once I get there, I'm able to stimulate the core to help me turn, not just my arm force. And maybe you can get your big toe on with your right hand. So feel the twist, stay with it. Even if you've got to hold your knee and it's tough, try to stay with the breathing cycle through the rotation. In breath for 4, like an honest 4 count, right? Versus 1 stiff in breath, and then out breath for 5 to 6. Do the best you can. It might be a 2 count in breath and a 3 count out breath, or 3 count in breath, 4 count out. Through the nose, out through the mouth. Yeah, these parts of the practice are medicine, right? The twists for the spine, for the upper body strength, for the core. Now, as you start to unwind and come back to center, kind of feel how you wrapped around in your breathing muscles, and then we'll come into legs up with our sand on the feet. So you're going to take off your sand, keep it all close by. Unwind the legs and bring the feet forward into staff pose. So the legs are straight in front. The back of the knees can kind of cool off. After bending so much, it's nice to cool off our knees. So what we'll do is we'll take our blanket sets and move one of them off. One of them I'm going to kind of push a little farther back, but that's probably enough. Okay. So as you lower back onto your bolster, your pelvis is on the bolster, and as you dive back, you want your blanket under your brain. Doesn't have to be more than that. Doesn't have to be shoulders. You feel that it's a support for your neck. However, if you like the blanket closer under your shoulder, right next to the top of the shoulders, and you feel that that's better for you. Okay? Very individual. Now I'm going to grab onto my sand. I'm going to start to prep for some leg work here, but it starts with the breathing work. Okay? So add a sandbag to the soles of your feet. Try. Give yourself some efforting moments to get here. Knees bending to chest. Good. Presses onto my breathing muscles just to be here. Kind of an inverted child's pose, isn't it? And then once the sand is stuck and it seems pretty even, arms open. And then see if you can push up. Okay? So the balance of the thighs and the muscles might be apparent, but focusing on the stretch of the back of the lower legs. Flex your feet. Feel where the zone is of the heels. And then find something neutral with your feet so that it's possible to be here for a good while. Yeah, the idea with inversions is the accumulation of time to yield the benefits for the vascular system, but also for the lymphatics. So if your legs have a little bit of trouble with making balance into your calf stretch, of course you could be in this pose with no sand. You could have a belt across the feet instead of a sandbag and pull with your hands. And let the elbows be on the floor so it's not stressful on the shoulders. Relax your eyes. Breathe slow. Now, as you wait for landing out of this position, because that's a mental possibility, isn't it? Notice what this pose is like without the sand. So we'll remove it. You can bend your knees and let the sand drop overhead or assist it. And then let the feet lift up. Yeah, maybe that feels good for your, well, obviously your feet could get a little tingly, but there's no weight on the feet. You're not standing into them, you're not putting weight into them. Anyway, you're just draining the fluid from the legs. Now let's bend the left knee and straighten it down on the floor. The left leg, not just the knee, huh? And then we'll get a belt and not spend energy on sanding the left leg today. Let's let that be. So you'll feel the right knee bend and then hook the belt under the foot and try to get that belt as close to the arch as you know it. So work the hands grabbing onto the belt as even as you understand it, okay? Sometimes body awareness is, some of this is fundamental and basic, but I think the subtleties are what we're all seeking, is our individual subtlety and how to make some changes for our body to feel balanced. So when you pull, maybe for you it's better to slide your elbows completely to relax. Maybe it's better for you to have your arms up on the belt and tug. So feel where you're still working. You're still working the leg, even if your elbows are in a passive state. So maybe that means you're pulling with your fingers, you're flexing your foot, you're contracting above the knee into the thigh. Stay with it. 3. Now bend the right knee, so you loosen up the grasp on the hamstring. And then when we switch the sides, I want you to get a feel of both hands higher up on the belt, as close as they'll get to full length, the arms. Now the foot's straight upwards, right, versus me trying to tug it over to my face. So it's pretty much up. I mean, maybe it's slanted a little bit back, but it's viscerally upside down, similar to my legs up pose. Okay, so take a moment here to slide the left foot in and press down to the foot, and then move the right leg farther back. If your flexibility is easeful for you, try to counter the pose with your left foot pushing down. Push. And as you come up with that right foot, switch sides, left foot up into the belt, right leg straight down, lengthen through the leg. Slide the hands down the belt so your elbows can relax. Feel the foot pushing. And also at the same time, feel yourself pulling the belt. Keep it super simple. Sometimes the best sessions can be simple, clear, flushing out spaces that are just dehydrated and stiff. That's kind of where we're at here. Just working through and getting a little more circulation then into the breathing muscles. I know, back to the breathing muscles again. So we're doing the breathing muscle focus by being inverted right now. Having your hips up or abdominal organs above the heart. Okay, now slide the right foot in, so the right foot is down, the bottom of the foot, and then bring your hands up higher on the belt and pull. Stretch the left hamstring. Stretch. Yeah, feel the left foot is flexing. almost without you having to engage moving the foot, like when you say flex your foot and you pull your toes up. Right now you don't have to put that energy into your brain, you just have the belt doing it. Now slide the hands down on the belt towards your waist, and let's do this. So what we'll do is we'll take our belt, let's see if you can get the ends of it buckled. Depends on the belt you got, right? But you're gonna buckle up and you're gonna bring the right foot up into the belt and push the feet out. So you're still in an inversion and it's a wide angle. Now the back is pretty supple now at this point in this pose. It's been elevated. The lower back is doing release work without efforting. You don't have to stress out about it. And if the legs are straight up and outwards, can you feel if your knees soften and the arms move open? And just feel yourself receiving the pose safely. Okay, now as you bend your knees and then reach up to the belt part closest to you, slide your feet in together, and then as you bend your knees a little deeper, slide the belt off. We might use this for bridge, so keep it buckled up and connected. We'll see. We'll take a block between the knees, narrow, lowest setting. Okay, important. You know what, you've got a ball, so you might use the ball instead. That is an option. It's a good one too. So if you have a ball, you can use the ball interchangeably with the block. Since I already have the block, and I'll keep it. But it's going to be the same exercise with or without, with either object. The ball is a little more responsive, so you're going to get more pelvic floor toning with that. That's for certain, because you actually are squeezing, and the energy of the legs is quite it's really quite hydrating for those muscles as well. So the block is still adequate. So I'm going to put my leg muscles inwards to the block or ball and knees to the right. Okay, feel when you move your knees over that you're going to try to move them downwards. That's key. So not this tuck and curl into a cannonball shape, but knees over. And then all the way to the other side. Yeah, try to let this one get a little bit wild and crazy, almost like just moving them side to side without structural discipline, so that you're focusing on how it feels in your lower back. That's where we're kind of going towards. So we're connecting now from our front body to our side body and then to our back body. We're going to kind of wrap it together as we start wrapping up. Yeah, if you move over to the side and you feel an adjustment, like a bit of a change in your back, rather than holding that there and just being happy you got that, try to keep moving through it. Move in and out. Feel when you move your knees back to the middle. Knees are in. Just be cautious of the blocker ball that it doesn't fall on your face here. You're going to have to clutch it. Hands on bolster and push your bolster forward. The ball is a little bit kinder on your chest though. The block can be kind of jabby. So I'm going to move my bolster forward so it's now under my feet. Got that? Okay. So I'm going to change out for the ball. This I like better for this pose. So when I squeeze into the object, I'm going to squeeze and lift up the hips. Okay? So feel that energy of lifting, of dialing in towards the object, squeezing in. Arms overhead, bridge. And draw bridge, lowering down the hips and the arms. Okay, so adjust your focus. You feel the tilt of the spine and the arch into the low back and the back of the pelvi really pressing, like the very top of the back of your buttocks, that ledge is balanced on the floor. So as you lift up your hips, that ledge is up and the arms go overhead. Inhale. Exhale, spine down. Inhale up. Let your hips lift. Let the arms reach. Shoulders back. Spine down. And continue. So keep that directional flow in the back and through the spine into the hips. Now the last time you lift up, I want you to get a feel of that awareness pressing into the ball, the circulation through the inner thighs, into the glute muscles of the buttocks. Keep that very awake circulation. And then as you lower down your spine with the arms beside you, hands on the floor to facilitate drawing the knees into the chest, and then remove the ball, and we'll push our bolster to the left, or sorry, to the right side of your space, over to the right. You might use your left foot to push it over. Okay, so I've got my bolster. I can add a blanket to it or any cushions if it seems too low for my left knee. But when you relax your right leg down, any way you want to relax it, cross the left leg over as we go into the pose, and then put a ball at the sacrum. Now I'm going to be kind of lax about it. I actually reach the ball to the dent in my base of my spine, between that and my pelvis, the dent, and then I put the ball there and it kind of holds nicely. Okay? So if you can find your sand, you're going to add it to the exterior left thigh, but also feeling the interior muscles calm down, right? So we're trying to supply enough base support and rooting so the midsection, the rib section, the breathing section can liberate here. I know, liberation a little bit. And then as you turn your head, and this is important to turn your head to the left. Now, if you don't do that version, like no head rotation, you might miss out a little bit on the fullness of the pose, I think. It's not going to affect everyone the same way for the neck, but I find it's also going to affect your breathing, since your respiratory tree includes your bronchial tubes in your throat. I mean, you need that to breathe, right? You need those to function into calm. So induce a state of calm here. Let your head feel when it turned to the left, that your eyes might relax, your sand might slide. Watch out for any sand slides. And simply enjoy the circulation from the pose. Hips and all. Now when you bring your head and you let it roll back to the middle, you might roll a little side to side, just a tiny bit. And now when you take the sand off of that left thigh, in between, we're going to move the ball to the sacrum, under, right? So be at the back. So I'm going to guide my legs back to center. I'm just going to move the ball out temporarily so I can get on my back safely. slide the feet in and lift up the rear and place the ball so it's under your sacrum. You know, we do bridge pose often with a block, right? That's been taught for a long time in restoratives, okay? Very often. So now with this ball, you can let the body weight really sink into it. And I encourage you to let your body, kind of like you're swaying your hips a little side to side, nothing too forceful, but just get a mild massage into the sacrum. The habit and the tendency is to try to find the areas that are stiff and tight and really drill into those and push and massage. Maybe keep it a little lighter and free, so you might wag your tail a little bit, anticipating there are some areas that you could massage deeper, and you're welcome to do that, right? You can put the ball on the back of the one buttock and massage that area and then go to the other side. You could do that. Or we're just creating space at the sacrum. It's a place that gets very gripped up during sitting in chairs and so forth. It's the energy around it is not very open, right, in our daily habits. So just use that ball to swish around. Sacrum cleanse. Okay. And then core strength. Bring the right knee in towards the chest. You're right in the middle, centering. Just lower down and left leg draw in towards the chest. If you get a little tipsy on this and you can't quite stay on the ball, use your arms beside you to hold yourself. Knee to chest, foot down, switch sides. Knee to chest. Then, both legs up and legs up. That's it. Balance your core. You can circle your feet. You can stay simple for the next few seconds here. Now, if the back body is laboring on this one, you can come down anytime. A little shakiness is normal. It's going to stay that way likely, as long as you're in this body for this pose. I don't think my cat could do this though. I could demo with her maybe. So bring your legs forward so they're going from 90 to 60 degrees. Try to be with it, so be with that ball too. Now, as you bring your knees in and you lower your feet down and you lift up your spine, so you're going to go to that bridge to come out, you're going to move the ball to the side and then come down on your back and get your bolster and move it to the other side. Take on your pose with the left leg straight and the right leg crossed. Okay, so fine tune this one. So if I really get rolly on this and I try to roll to my outer left hip, that's up to you, right? It's up to you. If you feel these ribs restricted in your breathing cycle, try for the twist, okay? Add your sand if you like. Sand free is okay, not required ever. Just a prop to support you. And then get that ball in and make sure it's there. If it slides out a lot, you might be too twisted. It doesn't have a place to hold. Now with the right arm open, try to get that out there. Feel your head turn to the right. Let your left arm out. Feel the belly ride the breath. Be sure your head is comfortable and your neck is gently stretching. Now receiving the most benefit, feeling where the ribs are twisted but centered, noticing the balance on both sides. and how simple this practice has been, right? Although we've gone through many different zones, it's been basically simple as a production, right? So feeling where you're into the rotation for a few more moments, not just with the ribs, but the legs. So feel that right leg cross over. Feel the weight into the left hip at the base. I find the more I'm willing to use the floor as my prop and really just let it hold me, then the muscles that are above and trying to get into a shape, I can let the tension go a little bit easier if I surrender right into the support. And that's going to be the key all the way to the final pose, is surrendering into support. Now, if your head is turned right, bring it back into the center, move the ball, and then when we move our sand to the side, I want you to take the moment here to bring the right leg across and back to center and hug both legs in, no ball under you at all. Spine is in almost a flat position, so it's pretty much flat and down. So when you squeeze your knees in, hug around them. Now, can you receive this same sensation when we come up and add our bolster and blocks? The same pattern in the back. Notice this, scan it, and then hold the legs and roll up. And let's take some blocks and place them both in the front of our mat. And also add on the block height to be the mid height, and then some height above that, which could be in the arrangement of a bolster or any kind of firm cushion you have with a blanket or two on top. So as you get your legs on top of there, we come back to the previous shape where we had our legs awareness drawing in. Now, get as close to the bolster set as you can so that the lower back is calming. You could add a sandbag across your belly. That can be calming for the back. You could have a sandbag from the heart straight down to the right, all the way down to the front of the pelvis. That could be good too. That might be the nice version of getting fully integrated for the day, as much as we would know. Relax your toes, make sure the heels are floating, and the arms beside you, palms receptive. Let your eyes close in and down. Notice what you're looking for when you close your eyes. And scan the pulse of breath. Feel the lingering quality of deepening inhalation and managing your exhalation. And let this be a bit of a science project for you and your connection to your breathing strengths. So as you in-breath, filling the lungs, both sides. As you exhale, empty, and you feel the full body when you ride the breath through the nose, filling out of the mouth. Now, when you fill up through the nostrils, they're natural filters, but let the mouth be closed. As you exhale, empty the lungs and surrender. Notice the support under you. Just be willing to be present and make sure the shoulders feel calm. However you've designed your arm position, feel a final few moments of letting the practice intertwine in your nervous system so you actually are soothing the nervous system from your practice. Now reaching your arms overhead, take full length. Start to slide your feet so that they are hooked up on the top of your height underneath them. And then if you have that sand, I want you to reach for that and remove it and bring your hands to the legs one at a time as they draw in. And then feel that completeness through your back, that security now maybe fully through the back flesh. And then hold the legs, squeeze them in breath, and out breath, roll to either side and let your hands help push you up. And head comes up closer to last, but generally it can be challenging to get that to be the last lifter. And then bring your hands to balance in front of the heart space. Okay? Let your eyes rest. Feel the brain weight bow and surrender to the heart center. Connecting here, utilize the breath as a force of connection between us and inwards. Deep breath in together. Exhale, bowing into your heart. Namaste.